Hi, welcome back to the Great Basin. I'm sorry about the wind noise today, but today's movie is about a documentary, and this is some unauthorized digging going on, a claim that doesn't belong to them. These guys think they have this claim right here, and they came in here, started digging without bonding or authorization from the BLM. So they got quite a bit of stuff dug up here. Got their excavator in here. And I have to just come out and document this because this is going on all over the place by some of these people. Welcome back to the Great Basin. The TV show's over now, so I can show you stuff and talk more about what they didn't see on TV. Starting with this roll-off container trailer. Now, we've seen them used as dumpsters. You know, you get a roll-off dumpster. But they will carry any kind of container and drop it off. And this has got military OD green paint on it. And so it's likely that there was some sort of military cargo container that it was used for. The only people that can afford to throw away stuff like this is the military. Otherwise, anybody with any sense of value would just, you know, scrap this at a scrapyard. That's well, there's probably 5 or 6 ton there. Who knows? But some of the other debris found in the hole. Now the wind is getting really kicking up. It's a flathead Ford V8 with a standard transmission behind it. I don't know of anyone else that built flathead V8s, but I believe it's a Ford. Another really strange item, seems way out of place, it's an old street light. This is an inline 6 motor, flathead design also. Got lots of wire, baling wire, fencing wire. Now this heavy gauge pipe right here, 3.5, 4-inch pipe. There's more of it. See how it's weathered, except for where a sleeve went over it. There's another piece of the upright. So what this was is like an A-frame, like a kid's swing set. And all the corners to hold it together are here too. Now, this vehicle is an M37 military vehicle, and it's been shortened or strengthened. I think it's been shortened right here in the center. Some real custom work. The frame's been cut and put back together and then reinforced. I think it was shortened, but I tore the front axle out of it. It's 2-wheel drive. It's got a flathead 4-cylinder Continental motor in it. So this is what the Army had, but it should have been 4-wheel drive. It's weird that it's 2-wheel drive, but this really, you know, that really speaks to me, military stuff right there. If you know what this is, put it in the comments. I'm just speculating, I'm guessing. It's old. It's 1940s. I mean, I haven't seen stuff like this since the 40s. And there's some awfully big levers there. There's a steering column and steering box. Now we'll go over there. So this thing was on top, mostly, and it was spanning the whole width of the hole. And this is what we've seen partially out of the ground. And it was laying in a north-south direction. These vehicles were laying in an east-west direction. Okay, over here I have these low ground pressure mats, and I counted 20 of them. And I laid them all out. And this here, this is a collapsible platform. And of course this is a harrow. This is a piece of farm implement. And it was laying next to, it was laying underneath that big truck frame over there. This is the axle from underneath it. This big heavy iron is part of this collapsible platform. This big triangular shaped metal here is the tongue off of that trailer over there. It had a very long tongue on it, and it got ripped in half coming out of the hole. This tank right here got hydraulic fittings on the side. It's got orange paint on it. It's got hydraulic control levers. It's a return tank. It's a reservoir, hydraulic reservoir for a piece of heavy equipment. This tank, riveted galvanized metal. It's a water tank they needed to run their drill. Their drill was an air track. Air tracks come orange, and they have hydraulic tanks on them exactly like that one right there. This thing right here is the grill in the front end of that truck. There's the headlights for it. It got taken apart when it came out of the hole. There is all this structural metal where they had set up an A-frame type structure that they could lift and lower stuff out of the hole. Now here's their balancing beam that they use to pick stuff up and down and adjust the weight. You know, they could move the pick point back and forth depending on the weight, and so that they could hold their load level. There's more stuff, more of that low ground pressure stuff. Air brake system off that trailer. Drive mechanism for that harrow machine over there. So the harrow machine, I don't understand that at all, but the rest of this stuff, the drilling equipment, the low ground pressure mats, they go together with the air track. Back over here again at this big trailer to show you the pads off the track, off the air track drill. Okay, now this is the rear differential out of that what was a Ford truck chassis that the flathead V8 came out of. See, that one still has its rear end in it. Now here's an axle to a vehicle. It's probably a wheel loader. Look at how long it is. That's bigger than a heavy truck axle. That's a piece of heavy equipment axle right there. Now, finding that hydraulic tank and those track pads and those low ground pressure mats, when they got that air track on soft ground, they had to use those mats to move it around. And they, what I believe, this was an elevator shaft where they dropped that air track drill down to a certain level, and then they drilled horizontally. And once they went below the water table, the ground got real soft and mushy, and that is a very heavy little machine, and that's why they had to use those underground and why they abandoned them here. This wasn't thrown away. It was all abandoned stuff by people who could afford to throw it away. So then this is my pit. This is going to be an open pit mine. We've got a pay layer right there. I don't know if the color will indicate it, but it's some really red layers with black stripes in it. I've tested it. I've found gold in it. Now we're working on a bulk sample over here. I brought in a little trommel operation, and we're going to run 10 or 15 yards and try to separate that layer right there. and mine this. And in the meantime, we're also finding these artifacts. And of course, there's been a lot of stories and speculation that Howard Hughes was involved here in the late 1940s. His personal contractor that built all his stuff down in Las Vegas was the same guy who built all the structures and buildings here. So there is that connection. Dick Williams was his name, and he was a big-time contractor, and he's the one who built all the structures here at Mount Wilson. And they were built back in they began building them back in the late 40s. And then there's this curious pole, right? It just ends. The grid comes up for 11 miles and it stops right here. And it just ends. And then there's nothing here, right? They just shut the wires off and left. You know, why is that? So here's another bit of evidence to support the fact that they had an A-frame set up over there and a winch to lower stuff up and down, because there's this big iron and steel, big concrete iron reinforced anchor point. This is where they anchored their winch. They had their A-frame set up over here, which is, they all disassembled that A-frame and threw it in the hole. I brought the little machine out to slowly rake through this pile and look for the artifacts. There's all kinds of speculation that Howard Hughes had a underground laboratory here, and there's, according to the show, there's a big void underground here. There's a big cavern underground. It's part of this Snake Mountain Range cave system that goes for 100 miles from, Lehman Caves, about 60 miles north, and it extends all the way down here. So they know about these underground caverns, and perhaps Howard Hughes was trying to drill into them, mine his way into them. So we're going to go through this piece by piece. This is kind of an archaeological site as well as a gold mining. It's just kind of a, well, I guess you would call it a fluke that we found gold here. But of course I knew there was gold here because there's this secondary action on this primary alluvium which concentrates the gold underneath this diatomaceous layer, this layer of ancient seabed. So I'm going to shut this off and try to go get the machine turned on over there and get running some gravel and see the results. You see way down there, there's a woman looking at all the artifacts. And over here, this is just the strangest thing, finding this kind of stuff in the debris pile. Jeff thinks there's an underground city. I don't think so. This guy talking to Jeff, he's from Alabama. He watched the show last week and got in the truck with his wife and came up here to look it over for himself. And if you want to, you're invited to come up here and stay at the Mount Wilson Ranch and look at the artifacts as we dig through this stuff and peel it apart like the layers of an onion.